Folks, thank you for joining us for another of our Mountain Zoom presentations. And we have the pleasure tonight of introducing Adam Boring. Adam Boring is with the High Knob chapter of Virginia Master Naturalists and was involved with some of the co-authors and photographers that are joining tonight with something called the Claudius Project. And he's going to tell us about that. I think it's a compilation, am I correct, Adam, about 40 species of poisonous mushrooms that you might encounter in this part of the world. He's our mushroom guru in the Master Naturalist chapter, and just always a pleasure to hear from Adam. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Great to be here. As he mentioned, I'm joined here today with several of the other authors on the Claudius Project. So in the list of participants, you all may see, let me see here, I'm going to pull up the participants. Blue Ridge Mycological Society is Pat Mitchell. He's a co-author there. Becky Rader, Lee Borg, Harry Puffenberger, and I don't see any of the other authors. And then we have a peer reviewer with us, and Penny Firth, who also provided some photos. And I don't believe Penny did any writing. I think it was just a peer review. So you've got several of us on here today. So to my fellow authors, if you all want to jump in at any time, feel free. But otherwise, I'll share my presentation here and tell you all a little bit about the Claudius Project. Let's see here. Get the zoom out of the way. All right. Can everybody see the presentation full screen and hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So the Claudius Project, Poisonous Mushrooms of Virginia. As Phil introduced me, I am part of the Virginia Master Naturalists High Knob chapter. The project series is 3 books so far. I do not know if there are plans to include another natural topic, but so far we've got the Cleopatra Project, the Socrates Project, and now the Claudius Project. They were 2 of the 3 were I don't know if I should say created, but they were done in conjunction with the Virginia Master Naturalists, the Blue Ridge Poison Center, and the University of Virginia School of Medicine. I believe it was the first project, Cleopatra Project, that was missing one of those partnerships. I don't remember which, but it seems like that's been a pretty powerful team of individuals that's got together and helped out on these publications. I wanted to take a brief moment to outline our project director, Alfred Goossens, who unfortunately passed away just about a month after Claudius was published. And I'd like to read a little bit of his obituary on the screen here. So in retirement, Alfred and his wife moved to Central Virginia, where he became a certified Virginia Master Naturalist in the Old Rag and Ravenna chapters. He was most proud of the work he accomplished on the Socrates Project, which is poisonous plants, the Cleopatra Project, which is poisonous animals, and most recently the Claudius Project, poisonous mushrooms. He was great at keeping us on task, and he was a leader who had a vision and knew what he wanted and kept us on task in that vision. Some other people who were involved with the project. This is taken from the front page of the book. It's like page 6 or something like that in the book. But it's got the different people who contributed photographs, the different authors here. So you see this top paragraph here. This is all the different authors on the book. Cover art was by Trish Crow. That was the background on the first slide here. These are all the different people who provided photo credits or photos for the publication. You'll see here, published December 2025. So hot off the press. So why and for who was Claudius written? That was very important to us as we were in the writing process of this book. And the man on the street, that's kind of the quote that I kept hearing Alfred say, the man on the street. This book is being written for the man on the street. So we had to work very hard to make sure that the language that we used got our point across in a way that the mushrooms that you may be out in the woods and find could be identified with our book potentially, but also in a way that isn't sounding totally too scientific and something that's hard to understand. So the man on the street for the school nurses, because who knows whenever a kid on the playground in elementary school, a kindergartner or a first grader may pick up a mushroom off the playground and have something in their mouth. So this would be something good for a school nurse to have handy. Emergency room staff, lots and lots of poisonings happening across the globe, and a lot of them are mushrooms. They're becoming more popular in media here lately. Veterinary staff, I help out on a team who identifies poisonous mushrooms that have been consumed on Facebook, and actually, it's more often than not where we see cases from veterinary offices than we do human consumptions. So you got to watch your dogs sometimes. Virginia mushroom hobbyists and mycophiles of the Central Appalachians and Mid-Atlantic states. So this would be a good resource for all of these types of people. So what do we hope to get out of writing the publication and even these presentations as we're providing them? We're hoping to spread knowledge and understanding of local fungi in our communities, strengthen public health of both humans and domesticated animals by avoiding poisonings, and to increase confidence in outdoor recreation. So how do you identify a mushroom? First and foremost, that's going to be one of the most important parts of being able to figure out if what you found in the woods or your yard or in a pile of feces laying somewhere, whether or not it's a poisonous mushroom or an edible mushroom. So thinking about anatomy, right? You identify a plant based on flower colors and shapes of the petals and how many leaves are coming off of it. And same thing with insects, right? How many legs it has, if there's crooks in the antennae, all these different things. Well, for mushrooms, these are the things you're going to be looking at. You're looking at the cap. You're looking at any kind of decorations on the cap. So it could be scales. It could be these lines that you see written here. They're called striations. So you're going to look at any kind of detail on the cap. You're looking at the margin, the edge of the cap. You're going to be looking at what's underneath. So this says gills here, but keep in mind that there can be pores on the underside, so holes. There can be what we call teeth, which are more like icicles that hang down off the underside. It can be totally smooth. It can be wrinkled. So the underside of that cap is going to be important. You're looking at the spores sometimes, looking at the spore print, the spore colors. You're going to look at the stem in its entirety. Maybe it's skinny up top, fat at the bottom. You're going to look at and see if there's a ring hanging off the stem. You'll see if the bottom of the mushroom is bulbous, if it's straight all the way into the ground, if it's got a cup at the base, kind of like what's pictured on the screen here. If there's big patches on the top that are bigger than just scales or warts, that's going to be leftover pieces of this egg-shaped kind of cup that it bursts out of. And then the mycelium, sometimes that mycelium color can be important in mushroom identification. So all of these different features are things that you're going to be trying to capture whenever you're writing down a description, or if you're taking pictures and you're trying to get an identification of something that you found. You want to capture as many of these details as you can. Of course, we're not going to get them all, but the more that we can get, the better off that you're going to be as far as getting a potential identification. You're going to want to take a picture of the mushroom in its habitat. So does it grow on a log? Does it grow from another mushroom? Is it growing from between the cracks in the sidewalk or in a cave? Maybe, like I said earlier, growing from dung. That's going to be important. What is it growing from? You want a good, clear picture of the underside to see if it's gills, if it's pores, if it's wrinkles. So wrinkles on the left, gills on the right here. You want a picture of the entire mushroom, including the base. Sometimes you got to dig it up just a little bit to get that shape of that base to see what it looks like. A detailed view of the cap. You'll see in one of these slides later on how important that seeing the cap can be. A bisection, so cut it in half with a sharp knife, because that can tell you a lot. Any kind of staining that you'll see whenever you touch or press on the mushroom. When you cut it in half, sometimes it'll turn color. So any kind of discoloration can be important. You're going to want to know the location that it was found. The famous Super Mario mushroom does not grow here in Virginia. It's a European mushroom, but it also grows in Alaska. So if you show me a red mushroom with white spots on the cap, I'm going to know it's not the Super Mario mushroom if it came from Virginia. But if you said, "Oh, I found this on vacation in Alaska," I'm gonna say, "Ah, okay. Well, you might have found an Amanita muscaria." Um, what was it growing from? The type of wood, hardwood or conifer. That's going to be important. Taking a moment to smell your mushroom. That's going to be important when you're identifying a mushroom as well. So the publication itself, I included some slides here with like, oops, over here on the right. This is a sample page from the slide. So this is our introduction to mushroom toxins page. So this is literally what it looks like in our publication. But just a little intro to fungal toxins. They're naturally occurring substances found in some species of mushrooms that can be harmful to humans and animals. Um, the toxins themselves are harmful only if consumed. Unlike a plant, you have to actually ingest the toxic mushroom to be poisoned by it. So you'll see people do taste and spit tests. They'll spit it all back out, rinse their mouth out with water, and spit it all out. And they're totally fine with a toxic mushroom. If you were to do that with a plant, on the other hand, that crosses the mucus barrier in the mouth, and then you can be poisoned that way. But for mushrooms, you have to ingest it. So some of those toxins, they attack the nervous system. Some cause severe damage to the liver and kidneys. Some of these toxins will have symptoms in as quickly as 6 hours, and some take up to a month to show up after ingestion. In the last several years, there have been an uptick in mushroom poisonings that has not helped the phobia associated with wild mushrooms. They call it mycophobia. Recently, you might have heard about the death cap situation in California. State officials have basically asked foragers to stop foraging because there were so many poisonings in California recently. And then there's even a Netflix documentary now about the mushroom murders in Australia. The lady who she cooked poisonous mushrooms and she killed, I think it was her in-laws. Yeah, they made a Netflix documentary about it. So it's very popular. Poisonings are popular in the media right now, leading to increased phobias. So some allergies, cooking, and myths. Like most things we decide to ingest, you want to. We can be allergic to things that we've never eaten before, right? People can become allergic to shrimp. People can not know that they're allergic to cinnamon or something like that. We can be allergic to mushrooms as well. Um, so because we don't know that we're allergic to them or not, we want to eat only a small portion of a mushroom that we've never eaten before if you're planning to ingest it. Thinking about chicken of the woods specifically, for whatever reason, that mushroom seems to have um, the highest number of people who say that it doesn't agree with their stomachs very well for whatever reason. I don't like the mushroom myself. Some people love it, but that mushroom in particular seems, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with people. Some mushrooms are made edible through cooking, surprisingly, like morels. You guys may have heard of morel mushrooms, Merkel's, hickory chickens, chicken of the, no, not chicken of the wood, sorry. Any of those dryland fish, any of those names. Those mushrooms are actually poisonous if you do not cook them first. If you eat them raw, they have a toxin in them. But thankfully, that toxin is broken down by cooking. So some mushroom myths: if an animal ate it, it must be edible. That is not true. If you stir the pot with a silver spoon that has the mushrooms in it and that spoon turns black, then they're poisonous mushrooms. That is not true. If you touch a poisonous mushroom, it is dangerous. This is not true. Sometimes there are people with sensitive skin allergies who can have some type of skin, contact dermatitis pop up, but touching a mushroom is not dangerous. Brightly colored mushrooms are poisonous. That's not true. If it bruises blue, it's a special mushroom. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Again, that is not true. We have many, many mushrooms that turn blue for various reasons. Some of them are delicious edibles. Amatoxins. So, of the different toxins that are identified in mushrooms in our area, amatoxins are the most serious toxin. They damage the liver and kidneys, lead to organ failure and death if left untreated. Initial symptoms include nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. And after a short period of improvement, liver damage begins, leading to jaundice, seizures, and eventually death. In Virginia, many poisonous mushrooms contain amatoxins, included Amanita phalloides, which is the death cap, which is very rare in Virginia. The second one here is going to be one that's more common, the Amanita bisporgera, or the destroying angel. This, after a short period of time of improvement, they say you feel kind of like you have the flu, and then you come into a recovery period where you're like, oh, well, everything's okay. I feel a lot better now, which is, after a couple of days of feeling ill. And then after that, then it really attacks the body. So it's interesting that it kind of has this wave uh, effect. Destroying angels are probably one of the most beautiful toxic mushrooms that we have in our area, in our state. Um, we've got several different species, but it's easier just to call all these tall, white, ringed with a saccate base mushrooms destroying angels. So this is what they look like. They grow under hardwoods. They grow near hemlocks. I've found. Snails like to grow up the side of them and munch them. And I guess snails have different types of digestive systems that might be able to tolerate this mushroom. Or maybe this little guy crawled off somewhere and was no more. I don't know. But this is one of our most beautiful, elegant, but most deadly toxic mushrooms that we have in our state. Funeral bells, I would say, are our most common poisonous mushroom in Virginia. They grow right now in the wintertime. So if you were to go hiking right now and you're looking at all the downed logs on the hiking trail and you see these brown mushrooms with these rings on the stem poking out of the side of a tree, probably about the size of no bigger than a $50 or so for the cap, but as small as probably, I don't know, a centimeter wide or so. You're likely looking at some funeral bells. Uh, I find these literally every year, almost every hike that I go on in the wintertime. I would call this probably our most common toxic mushroom, poisonous mushroom. This is a sample write up for what you will see in our book. So this is the funeral bell write up. So you'll see that we have some photos of the mushroom in the book. We've got a description here that talks about the cap, the stem, where it can be found, what makes the mushroom poisonous, the symptoms that may be experienced, lookalikes to that mushroom, and then we like to try to include some kind of note or fun fact at the end as well. And you'll see we've got the poison control number at the bottom of just about every page in the book here. So this is what you'll expect with the 4041 species that we've got in our publication. Muscarine is the next toxin I'd like to talk about. So this toxin activates a receptor in the human brain, resulting in cholinergic syndrome, in which the nervous system is overstimulated, leading to excessive salivation, sweating, and in severe cases, difficulty breathing and heart problems. I've actually seen veterinary staff call that sludge syndrome, SLUDGE, I think it is. Symptoms include increased saliva, sweating, nausea, vomiting, blurred vision, and in severe cases, heart complications. In Virginia, mushrooms containing muscarine will include some of the few on the next pages here. So Inosabaceae, the fiber caps. These are actually 4 different genera of fungi in that family, Inosabaceae. But in the book, we wrote up one single write-up for Inosabaceae. And that's because they share some pretty common characteristics. What we're looking at here are actually 2 to 3 of those genera, and they have a common feature. You'll see the caps here are kind of splitting apart, and this is why they call them fiber caps. So this longitudinal striation is what they call it. So the long remose cap, the long fibers splitting on these caps, and they've all kind of got it. It's harder to see on this white one, but they've all got these splitting fibers on the cap. Aurelinine, our next super deadly toxic toxin, primarily damages the kidneys, leading to kidney failure days or even weeks after the ingestion. Remember, I said that some of these mushrooms can be lethal after up to about a month. This is one of them. Initial symptoms may be mild, such as thirst and frequent urination, but eventually lead to kidney failure. In Virginia, Cortinarius rubellus contains aurelinine, and another, Cortinarius aurelinosus, which was an exciting find by one of our authors, Pat, who's on the call here. Found this in his locality near Lynchburg, and it had only been sequenced through DNA means and identified recently. I think it was 2022 is when it was first described. So there's not been many instances of it being found and talked about and documented, but we have it here in Virginia. He found it in his yard, or maybe it was just up the road. I don't remember. Lynchburg. Um, Likes oak trees. We've got oak trees here. So this orange mushroom, and whenever you shine a UV light on it for a period of time, it doesn't start off this vibrant blue with a 365 nanometer UV light, but the aurelinine um, inside of the mushroom reacts with UV light, so it'll turn this blue over time. You can see it before your very eyes. I mean, if you were to catch it on video, it's very noticeable. You cut it in half and shine a light on it. It's very cool. So, um, yeah, it's a really neat mushroom, but it's deadly. Here's a sample of that right up. So you'll see I've got these photos here. You won't see the UV photo in the publication. It's only here, folks. But in the publication, there are different photos as well. So you'll see more in the publication. Some miscellaneous lethal toxins. We've got polyporic acid that is in this mushroom here. This is, oh Lord, the name is escaping me. Hapalopilus nigilans or Hapalopilus rudulans. Tender nesting polypore. Cool thing with this one, it'll turn purple with a drop of KOH on it, if you know what KOH is. But it's this orange polypore, so some people could confuse that maybe with a chicken of the woods. But that one causes brain swelling. Gyromitrin, this one is present in false morels, is a common name for these. Gyromitra esculenta, I believe, is the what people call it in Europe, but we've got a different name here. But these maroon looking brainy false morels seem to like hemlock trees in Virginia here. They have got gyromitrin. That one is one that experts will cook. You have to change the water and boil and change the water and boil and change the water and boil. But this one, that toxin can get into the vapors, so you have to cook with the windows open. I'm not risking it, but yeah, this one's deadly toxic. Some miscellaneous toxins. You've got copperine or coprine in some of the inkcap mushrooms in our area. Ibotenic acid muscimol. This yellow one here with the beautiful white warts is our equivalent of the Super Mario mushroom that we have in Virginia. This is Amanita muscaria variation Gasawii. It might soon be Amanita chrysoblema, but what's the common name for it? The yellow American flag Eric or something like that would be the common name for this. And then your psychedelic mushrooms are also considered a toxins that contain psilocybin and psilocin in it. And this is our our ovoids, or I think river teachers is another name for them. Psilocybe ovoidiocystidiata. That's a super long name. It just has to deal with the shape of a microscopic structure. That's how they got that name. Some more miscellaneous toxins. We've got illudin, which is in these jack-o'-lantern mushrooms here. Amphilotus illudent. That's how it's named after. Involutin, which grows in Paxillus involutus, the brown roll rim. Phenol is a possible toxin in these agaricus mushrooms here that like to bruise yellow whenever you cut them or you mess with them. Button mushrooms are another common name for these. Molybdophyllocin is what's inside of these fairy ring mushrooms. I bet you've seen these in yards in the summertime. These huge fairy rings are these beautiful, luscious looking white mushrooms with brown scales on the cap and a ring on the stem. They're gorgeous mushrooms, and they look tasty, but they call them the vomiter as a common name because it'll come out of both ends if you attempt to eat these. Fasciculol E and F is the suspected toxin in these mushrooms down here called Hypholoma fasciculare or Hypholoma subviridae. Don't believe that they have a common name. No, sulfur tuft. Sulfur tuft is what they would call these mushrooms. And then there are still mystery toxins. These two mushrooms here in the bottom right. We've got the scleroderma mushrooms, or the poison pigskin puffballs. When you cut those open, they're black. They are technically toxic. And this one here is, I believe it's Boletus sensibilis. We've got a write-up on it. The toxin in it has not been identified, and it looks a lot like several edible mushrooms, including the bicolor bolete. Some different features that you'll see in the publication. We've got a table of contents with all the different mushroom names in it. You'll see an introduction to mushroom toxins in Virginia, toxic and non-toxic look-alike mushrooms. We've got several 40 or 41 species write-ups or family write-ups. You'll see a bibliography in there to point you in the direction of some of the references that we use or that you can look at. And we've got a glossary for all these confusing words that I keep using that you probably are wondering, what did he just say? Did he just cuss at my mama? No, I'm sorry. It's just one of these weird words. We got a glossary for that in the back. So, what to do if you think you've been poisoned? We got the number all throughout the book. Here it is again, called the poison control line. But one of the things I see the most whenever I'm helping out with the poison group that I help with is that people have thrown away the mushroom. They've run to the emergency room or they've taken their dog to the vet and they've not taken any pictures of the mushroom. They've not brought the mushroom with them or anything. And all we can do is guess at that point, which is not good for you or your animal if we're having to guess at the mushroom, because then you may not be getting the correct treatment for the toxin that you may or may not have ingested. So do not throw that mushroom away. And better yet, take pictures of mushrooms before you cook them. That way, if anything happens, you've got good pictures of them fresh and not broken down by the oil and garlic butter in your pan. Take it with you if you go to the hospital. Call poison control if you believe that you've been poisoned. And this is the group that I've helped out with. It's on Facebook. Uh, you can take a picture of this group if you want to join and um, ever post any kind of concerns about poisoning. I will say that they are very, very particular in their group rules. You cannot comment on posts or they will ban you from the group. They keep it strictly professional as far as only people who are involved with the case or the experts can comment. So there's no confusion as to who information is coming from in the group. Um, if you don't have proof that you have ingested the mushroom, they will call it speculation and will not be able to identify the mushroom for you. So it's only for confirmed cases of ingestion. But it's got experts, 200 plus experts from around the world who work 24/7 to identify mushrooms in that group. Lookalike mushrooms. So uh, this would be a good time to come off mute and let me know which one of these do you all think is an edible mushroom, the left photo or the right photo? Anybody have any guesses? Which one would you eat if you were going to eat one, the left photo or the right photo? No takers today? That's all right. The left photo is the edible mushroom. That is a chanterelle mushroom if you've ever heard of a chanterelle. The right mushroom is one of those jack-o'-lantern mushrooms. They look very similar. They call them lookalikes for a reason. What about these two? Anybody feeling brave about these? Which one would you eat? See people in the chat saying right, right, the right side. All right. And that is correct. You would eat the one on the right, the chicken of the woods mushroom. That tender nesting polypore on the left is the one with that polyporic acid that could lead to the brain swelling. Um, and you can see they're both orange polypores. If you're not trained on how to identify a chicken of the woods mushroom, you might confuse that left mushroom for a chicken of the woods, and they can get quite large. I've seen them the size of softballs or so, so they can be pretty big. Any guesses on these two? Which one would you eat? The left side, okay. Any other thoughts? Right, okay. All right. These two here are tricky. The ones on the left will kill you. The ones on the right are an edible species. Agaricus reducibulbus is what that one came back as. I got DNA sequencing on that one. But look how similar they are. I mean, totally white caps. They both have rings on the stem. They both have swollen bases. They're white all over. If you look at the gills aren't even connected to the stem of both of those. Super, super close. But what would differentiate these would for these one on the right to get a little bit older and their gills would turn pink or brown instead of staying white. So yeah, those are super tough. What about these two? Last two. Which one would you eat, the left or the right? Okay, left, left. All right. You would be right. The left is a puffball, and puffballs are edible if eaten when they're still young and the insides have not turned a yellow brown color and begun to mature those spores on the inside. On the right hand side is a young destroying angel. Whenever those start off, they can look like a little white egg. And if you cut it in half, you can even see the features of that mushroom even while it's still in that egg form. So you see the gills on the right hand side there in that bisection of that mushroom. It's a lot of fun too. I've never personally eaten puffballs. I hear that they're like tofu, but cutting them in half is going to be the key to identifying if you've got a puffball or if you've got an amanita egg. So on the right there, you'll see the gills on the inside of that amanita whenever I cut it in half. So wrapping up, where can I get the book? It's free. You don't have to pay a thing for this book. Totally free. You can scan this QR code, and it'll take you directly to the book. It'll literally open up the PDF right on your phone. You can try to take a picture or a screenshot maybe of that link on the screen there, and it'll take you to it. Or you can go to Google and just type in the Claudius Project, and for me, it's the #1 link that pops up. And since it can be found as a digital publication, the links in the references and glossary and bibliography, those links will work. So if you're wanting to dig deeper into understanding some of what went into us writing this publication and the resources that we use to be able um, to write up this work and what we use to study these mushrooms, these links will take you to some really, really great resources. This is just kind of a general poster that I have in my slideshows. If you wanted to take a picture or a screenshot of this page, it's just kind of a summary slide that talks about several different types of toxic mushrooms. It's got their common name in black, their Latin name in red. In parentheses has the toxin, and highlighted in green is what it does to the body to cause that failure. And the poster there on the left, it's got the example photos for a death cap, or the three on the left, and the one on the right's the destroying angel. Like I said, we don't have many death caps in our area. If you think you found one, please get a hold of me ASAP. They like loblolly pines, so if you have loblolly spots, let me know if you see a brownish mushroom with a cup on the bottom and a ring on the stem. Please, please, please. If you want to get to know some of the local experts around the state, the Commonwealth, these are some of the mushroom clubs that you can join Facebook clubs and get to know some of them. Mall DC does not have a Facebook page, but they have a website. If you just type in Mycological Association of Washington, D.C. on Google, you can get to their website. I think it's malldc.org, but don't quote me on that. These other four have Facebook pages. Central Appalachian Mycological Society is the one closest to us in Southwest Virginia here. We're not as big as the New River Valley Mushroom Club or the Blue Ridge Mycological Society, but they're going to be more New River Valley and kind of upper central Virginia area. And then the West Virginia Mushroom Club is a close neighbor of ours. They do events in places like Charleston, West Virginia, Thomas and Davis, West Virginia, Blackwater Falls State Park, those kind of places, and they're wonderful too. If you're ever able to get over there and check out some of what they're doing. So we'll leave it there with any questions. I'll stop sharing so that we can see each other's lovely faces if we want to share. So, are there any questions? If not,